Hi everyone, welcome to Desert Girl Coastal Life. I am Melissa, and on today's video I'm going to show you all of the plants that we have growing inside of our home. They have been brought inside as they cannot tolerate our winter cold here in Zone 8B. I'm going to show you the plants that I've been growing from seed, as well as some of the trees that I have purchased grafted. And I'm going to step you through everything we do, from how we give them light, our watering setup, and our soil, and how I keep them alive, and not only alive, but happy and healthy. Grab a seat because this might be a long one, and let's get into how we keep our plants alive inside our home through winter. So at the top of our stairs, we have these two potted citrus trees. The one on the left, you probably can already tell what this is. This is a Australian finger lime. I'll show you the tag. There we go. Australian finger lime. It is a semi-dwarf. Now, this tree has been put through the ringer a little bit. I had it inside last winter, spring, and I took it out way too early this year. So we got a few cold snaps, tons of rain. It lost all of its leaves, and I was actually wondering if it would even bounce back. Then it ended up getting a bunch of scale and other bugs. However, with a lot of spraying and time spent outside, it has fully flushed back. It's got its gorgeous green leaves coming in, so it's looking really good. I now have high hopes that potentially the start of spring of next year, maybe I'll start to see some flowers and potentially some fruit. Now, beside it, this really tall tree, it has got to be maybe 4.5, 5 feet tall. Anyway, this is actually a seedling. It was from a sumo orange. This is, if you've watched my videos in the past, you do maybe know that I was able to grow a sumo seed, which in 9 months produced its first flower. And probably 9 months later, we had a citrus fruit that was small, but tasted exactly of the mother fruit. So it was really exciting to actually have fruit grow so quickly and taste so sweet from seed. So this is another one of our sumo orange seedlings. It's in a rather large pot. I can't remember if this is a 15-gallon, but as you can see, there is a little bit of discoloration in the leaves. I wasn't really on top of fertilization this summer, but it's otherwise doing pretty good. The upper leaves coming in look nice. They've got some good coloring. Let's see if I can get, there we go. Yeah, so you can see they look pretty good. Nothing else is looking like there's any issues or pest damage. So we're kind of hoping that perhaps in, I don't know, maybe the coming year or so, maybe we can see some flowers and potentially some fruit. So now let's talk Japoticaba. This one here is a Brazilian fruit tree. I actually was able to try the Japoticaba a year ago now and loved the fruit, and so I saved the seeds, and these are the little seedlings now, 1 year after planting the seeds. And we do have, I think, about 16 of them. They are extremely slow growers, and that has been something I've had to learn with how slow they are, but I am so happy to have these little fruits. I do have, there we go. I do have a Japoticaba that I purchased. The variety is the Scarlet Japoticaba, and let me show you that tree now. This is the Scarlet Japoticaba. I purchased this maybe about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. Time goes so fast, it's hard to remember. So with the Scarlet Japoticaba, it is grown in zones 9 to 11, so it does need to be brought indoors through the winter time. It is a slow grower, like I mentioned. It has very sweet and tangy fruit. And when it comes to the soil, you want to grow it in a slightly acidic soil, but very well draining. So what I do with all of my soil mixes is that where the roots grow, I only grow it in mostly inorganic materials such as sand, perlite, and a little bit of peat moss. And then the top inch or two is where I put my bagged compost. Now, because it likes acidic soil, I do amend it with my coffee grounds, but also the peat moss helps with that because that's acidic as well. So I never, in any of my pots, I never add compost down here with the roots. So every tree, every plant that I have in pots, they are all grown mostly in sand, perlite, and peat moss. And I have found that to be probably one of the most efficient and effective ways of helping to keep all of our plants happy and healthy without any root rot. So let's jump around to some other plants. Now here's a look at some of our star cherry or Suriname cherry seedlings. These ones also, I say they're probably about 8 months old. They grow a lot faster than the Japoticaba does. And as you can see, the leaves are beautiful, shiny, and green. We do have a few of them. I'll kind of pan across some of our other Japoticabas. But here you can see some more of our Suriname cherries. Now, again, these ones only are getting south-facing sun, but they are growing quickly. They love to be left alone, and all I do is water them. They grow in zones 9 to 11. You harvest them in the springtime, which is a really great time to have fruit coming in. And they also enjoy having full sun. And if you're worried about size, these are a really nice sized plant where they grow 3 by 6 feet, tall and wide. Now, the fruit itself has an interesting taste. It tasted a little bit of like passion fruit with like apricot. It was really interesting. I don't know any other way to describe it, but we really enjoyed the fruit, so we're looking forward to having some fruit in the near future. Okay, so here's a look at our sugar mango. This tree I grew from seed, and it's been growing for probably about 2.5 years now. I'll bring you down here to the lower trunks. If you can see, there are 4 of them. Now, if I had done this correctly the first time, when it was a baby, I could have separated them and then had 4 separate trees, but I did not know that. So I have allowed them to grow together and they're doing good. So if you can see, and sorry guys, it's so bright now, the sun has come out. So here we're getting lots of new growth. This is some of the new growth here. We got some more coming in there. And all of them are doing really well. Like, it's not like one is maybe getting more nutrition and, you know, is maybe having some issues, but they're all doing really good. We've definitely got, there we go. Yeah, so this is a sugar mango. It's a very tiny mango, very sweet, extremely aromatic, and the skin is so thin that you can actually eat it. Now, a fruit like this, or a tree like this, I don't know when or if it will flower, but given, let's see if I can get a better view on this. Yeah, so given, I mean, how much it's grown and the fact that we're in a zone 8B and it has to live indoors for the winter and then go back outside, I would say even if it just ends up being a fruitless tree, it's a beautiful tree to have around. Really gorgeous leaves, but I'm still hopeful. I believe that perhaps maybe another 2-ish years, maybe we will see some flowers. So that is the hope. Well, here's a look at 2 out of 3 strawberry guava plants that we have. This is a really awesome tree to grow, no matter your zone. They are a zone 9 to 11, but similarly to citrus, you can just bring them in the winter time. They are an evergreen and extremely easy to grow from seed. We tried this about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago now, and I planted the seeds out, and here you can see them. We've got one here and one in this pot, and they're big. We have had 2 flowers set. However, both have fallen off, so we haven't had fruit, but it is starting to flower. So as a very compact little tree, if you planted it outside, if you were in the appropriate zone, they're usually 2 to 3 feet wide and they can grow 6 to 10 feet tall. So you would have a substantial sized tree or shrub. But in pots, we'll probably have 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. And I can obviously prune them down and create the shape that I want. But these little plants, being zones 9 to 11, they are hardy down to -5 degrees Celsius. And so that's still pretty good. Like, we haven't even hit -1 yet, so they could technically still be outside, but I am, I guess, babying them a little bit more because I don't want to lose them. This here is a Atamoya or Cherimoya. I have had both fruit and I've saved seeds from both. And unfortunately, my little tags have all come off or have been wiped clean. So I don't actually know which ones these are anymore, but it is a part of the Annona family. And they're a very low maintenance tree. They grow, I have found, moderately fast, depending. Some of them have grown faster than others, but their optimal growing conditions are anywhere between 22 and 32 degrees Celsius or 72 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And they do like some humidity, roughly about 70%. And so I usually have my house that's quite dry, so I do have to spritz it every once in a while, and it seems to be fairly happy with that. It can grow to a height of 30 feet, but of course we don't live in a zone where they will happily grow outside, so it will be confined to pots and most likely controlled at about 6 feet tall. I'm going to show you one of our largest Atamoyas. So here she is inside one of my bedrooms where I have, again, south-facing window. But this one, it's hard to kind of get a grasp on how big it is. But as we come down, you can kind of see the size of the trunk. Let me just show. Like, it's pretty decent. And so I would say this one here, because of the fact that it's bent over, it is probably around 5.5 feet tall. And this one started growing outside rapidly in the springtime and just kept going all summer. Now, this little tree is one I'm very happy to have. This is called Miracle Fruit. It is an evergreen shrub. It is native to the tropical West Africa, and it is, I'd say, slow to moderate growth, perhaps because of its conditions here. Maybe it grows a lot faster in its native home, but it has put on substantial growth since the springtime, and it has probably almost doubled in size. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about miracle fruit, this is a very interesting tree/shrub that produces red little berries. And when one of those berries are chewed properly and you kind of swish it around your mouth, within about a minute, it actually prevents your sour taste receptors from working, and therefore you can eat anything sour and it will taste sweet. So if you were to chew a lemon, it would taste like sweet lemonade. And the effects, depending on the person, can last anywhere from maybe a few minutes to a couple hours. So for people who are dealing with any kind of health issues or diabetics and things like that, and you have a hard time eating certain foods, this can be a wonderful little berry to have to help you consume foods that are otherwise hard to eat. For anyone who has been watching my videos and you happen to see my one video with my sumo orange seedling that produced its very first fruit in a year and a half or so, this is a look at the tree now. So it has put on some nice branches. The fruit itself was cut off from this point here, and it's put on branches down here and above. But guys, look at the size of those spikes. Like,
Let me give my hand as reference. It's basically 4 fingers long, like they're huge. So this is essentially a weapon, and you do not want to brush up against it or fall into it or accidentally sit on it because, yeah, she's got some spikes. Now, because I allowed the fruit to grow in its first year of the tree growing, it did stunt its growth. So this year now, since we picked the fruit almost exactly a year ago today, it has not put on any other flowers, which I feel fine with because I would rather have it grow and produce a stronger trunk and base so that when it does put on fruit, it'll have more ability to have better fruit, larger fruit, and it can sustain perhaps more than one at a time. Okay, from what you can see in this pot, these are all citrus grown from seed, and they came from a blood orange that, again, we purchased from Costco. And so far they're doing really good. I think we have about 7 or 8 in this pot, and I will probably come spring, I'll pot them up into their own individual pots and let them grow on. So far I don't have any roots coming out the bottom, but yeah, they're looking really good, super healthy. They seem to like growing together. They're like a little family in there. But if I do see roots come out the bottom, then I might pot them up a little bit sooner. Now here is a bedroom with a south-facing window that I have transformed into my solarium. Now in here we have loaded a bunch of trees. We do have a bunch of star fruit here. They do struggle this time of year. I've lost a lot of leaves already. Did have some spider mite damage, but we've controlled the spider mite. Now we're just kind of hoping that we're going to get more and more new shoots, which have been forming. So, you know, so far so good. Like I say, everything is a learning experience, but we have 6 star fruit, and so far all have done fairly well. Here again is another one of my citrus seedlings. This one I do believe is from a Eureka lemon, and again it's actually pretty tall, so I've got to cut it down and then help promote it to do some side growth because I don't need it to be tall, but I do need it to be well branching. Now on this little table here is one of my grafted varieties. This is a key lime. I've had her now for probably over 3 years, and it's produced a lot of key limes for us. And as you can see, we do have some flowers. There's some more hiding underneath, but they're kind of hard to see. Now, when this particular plant was outside, it took on a lot of pest damage. We had, I don't even know what it's called, but it looked like black mold and scale. So I went to fight for my plant, and I have been taking care of it through the summertime with horticultural sprays, and that has worked. So much so that it's putting on lots of new growth and is looking happy and healthy once again. So I'll be really excited to showcase the fruit as they come in. So the key lime are really great for growing in containers. They're naturally dwarfing, reaching a height of about 12 feet. But of course, kept in containers, you can manage them at whatever height you want. Each lime takes about 6 to 9 months to ripen, which is actually a fairly long time. They are self-pollinating and they do like loamy soils. Their pH, they're kind of happy around a 6 to a 7. They do like it to be well draining, so I keep that in mind with using more sand. They are zones 2 to 11, and that's if you bring them indoors during the winter. And they only take 1 to 2 years to bear fruit. So a really great tree to have, especially if you live in an apartment or in a place that's cold, because you can easily take them in and out. This is a clump of 6 loquat seedlings. These in particular actually came from a grafted loquat tree that I picked up last year, and it already had 3 fruit on it. We were able to taste the fruit, and it was the best loquat I've ever had as far as like juiciness and flavor. So I did save the seeds and here they are. I'm hoping that along with my grafted variety, these will potentially in the future produce tasty, sweet, juicy loquats as well. Now here is the plant that I got the loquat fruit from, and we produce seedlings from it. This one here I got locally, and it's put on, like you can see this whole branch coming up and this extending branch, that's all from this year. So far it's been really happy. I do need to pot it up into a larger pot again and get it ready for the winter season, and then hopefully we'll have some more fruit. These loquats here prefer full sun to partial sun. They do like to be well-draining, loamy soil and acidic to a neutral alkaline. They bloom in the fall and in the winter time, and they are a hardiness zone 8 through 11. So I do believe that as this tree gets older, if I could protect it through the winter time outside, it would probably be ideal to have it out there. But I do think it's just a little bit too small for that just yet. This tree here, which is looking interesting, it's kind of like spindly, but it has a tremendous amount of flowers. Like there is a flower coming up everywhere. Every single branch has flowers. It is incredible with how much is coming up. This is one of my grafted varieties. It is called the Delfino Blood Orange. And when it was outside, it had some flowers, but it ended up dropping them. Now that it's come inside, it is exploding in flowers. So I don't see how this little tiny twig of a tree can hold all fruit. But I mean, even if we got one, I'd be thrilled. Honestly, I would just love to actually try the fruit from this tree. But it is beautiful looking at the flowers, and of course the smell is intoxicating when they open, so I'm always happy to have flowers come in. So with the Delfino Blood Orange, it is a growing zone of 9A. It is hardy to 30 degrees Fahrenheit or about -1 Celsius, so it's actually pretty hardy, which is nice. Not hardy enough for my area, but it's quite good. It is self-fertile, as you can see here. It puts on a lot of its own flowers, and it grows 4 to 5 feet tall, and it can yield about 40 to 50 fruit, which, yeah, if this was big enough, I would imagine it could hold all these fruit, given how many, how prolific it is in flowering. They do bloom in winter to early spring, and they ripen by November to March. So if any of these take and hold, then by next November and into March, I should be able to show you guys some Delfino Blood Oranges. Okay, so now behind the Delfino is another citrus seedling. This one actually has done pretty well. It's in a rather large pot. The take came off, so let me just sniff the leaf here. That's actually hard to tell. I'm not entirely sure what this one is. It doesn't smell like lemon, but it also doesn't smell like a lot of like the actual sweet oranges I have. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this one is, but yeah, I guess only time will tell. You guys probably use something similar to this, but this is my evergreen and citrus water-soluble fertilizer. This is what I use for all of my citrus and evergreens. So now here is another one of my lychees. This one actually was outside until just a few days ago. So it has been withstanding pretty cold temperatures, doing a little test just to see how far I can push it and whether it can handle what temperatures here in our zone. But let me show you inside here, we've got some new growth coming in. So it does seem to be doing well. Now that it's inside, it probably is going to be a bit happier. So yeah, we'll just kind of keep following its progress and see how she does. On our table here we've got a bit of a mix. I won't go over too much again with these citrus. It's another citrus grown from seed. No flowers, no fruit just yet. We do have a look at one of our star fruits. And this here, if you can see, it's kind of hard to see. Sorry guys, the light is like, it's great, but it's not great for filming. So this is one of my Pitanga tubas. I have 2 of them, and This one is actually from seed. And this one down here, I'm gonna try to get in the yellow pot. This one, I believe is probably also from seed, but I did purchase it. So the Pitanga tubas, they're native to Brazil. They're very low maintenance. They are evergreen, which is awesome. They do produce like a sweet yet sour fruit that has tropical hints of like mango and pineapple and passion fruit. They're really interesting. They do really well in containers, and they actually will do well in partial sun. So I'm kind of hopeful in this room again, like they're pretty happy not getting full sun. And then what's interesting about it is that once they flower, it only takes 3 to 4 weeks to harvest. So that's actually fairly quick, which is really exciting. So this this plant here hasn't had any flowers yet. However, this one, let's try to get, yeah, there we go. This one in this yellow pot has put on quite a few flowers, so now I'm really hopeful for this coming year that not only will it flower, but it'll hold and produce fruit. So some interesting things with star fruit. They're really easy to grow from seed. It can take 3 years or more to fruit. We are 2 years in, so getting close to perhaps some potential fruiting. They do like warm soil, and they're a zone 9 through 11, but yeah, they've seemingly done pretty well here. I don't know how warm their soil is. I don't ever test the temperature, but they do say that for flowering and fruiting, your minimum temperature is 15 degrees Celsius or 60 Fahrenheit, and that they like full sun, but they can tolerate partial sun as well. So looking from this side in the bedroom, we have this little tree here. This is called a star apple. And this tree I am really happy with. I did have two, but one went missing and I don't know how or why, but I do have one beautiful star apple tree growing inside. They're more commonly grown in South America and Asia, but they are found in US states like Hawaii and Florida. They have a really sweet tasting fruit with a very soft and milky interior and dark purple exterior. It's a really beautiful fruit, especially when you cut into it. The seeds are in the shape of a star, and the hardiness of this tree is 10 to 12, so it definitely cannot take any cold nights. It wants to have really warm conditions and very well draining soil. Now here's a look at two of my sapodilla seedlings. These guys were really hard for me to grow. I've tried my hand at growing sapodillas a few times, and these are the only two that have taken. They are a very slow growing evergreen. They're also known as Chico. Their relatives are Mame sapote, Abiu, and Lucama, which is really interesting. This one is trying really hard to push out new leaves. It's having some difficulty, but this one here pushed out its first true leaf. These particular ones, they originate in Mexico and Central America. They do taste really sweet, like you're eating brown sugar mixed with caramel with like a hint of pear. It's a really fascinating fruit. So this particular tree, again, really likes the sunlight. So we've put it in a south-facing window. It is sensitive to cold temperatures, and it likes the soil to be constantly moist, but also very well draining. So it's always sitting in water, and it's filled with sand. And beautiful little sapodilla. Now, beside the sapodilla, I do have patomba. This is a fruit I don't know a bunch about, but when I tasted the fruit, it was absolutely delicious. And so I've grown it from seed. It took about a year for that seed to produce a seedling. And so I found it to be very slow growing. It's not grown much since summertime. So I don't really know how long it takes or if I'm even giving it the right conditions, but we shall see what happens in another year. So the taste of this fruit is very similar to having like a really sweet apricot. It was really delicious and also really juicy. The minimum temperature that this tree likes is 15 degrees Celsius or 59 Fahrenheit. It is self-fertile, which is great because you only need one of them. It is not drought tolerant, so I do make sure to keep it well watered. And from seed, they do say it takes about 3 to 4 years to bear fruit, so I guess we'll see how true that is. And this particular one originates from Brazil. Now, this is a tree that I'm really happy to have. It's called a cha-cha. This is a tropical fruit from Bolivia's Amazon basin, and it is a fruit I haven't tried yet. I've only researched it and listened to how other people described eating the fruit and what it tasted like, and decided, based on that alone, that it was a tree I'd like to try to grow. And its cousin is actually the mangosteen, which is the queen of all fruits. Some say it tastes like lemonade, so I like lemonade. That's always a good sign. This does naturally grow in zones 10 through 11. It prefers full sun and really well draining soil. But as you can see, it is starting to put on some new leaves. It's hard to kind of see it there, but there we go. Yeah. So it has been growing steadily. It's doing well, but again, it is a relatively slow grower. Okay, for those of you who know, I have been growing some Chinese bayberries, or also known as yangmei. This particular tree is native to China. It is best in sandy, loamy soil, slightly acidic, or a neutral base. And it is an evergreen that produces purplish round fruit that kind of look like a berry. It is actually a drupe, like cherries, so it's a single stone seed in the center surrounded by juicy pulp. And the fruit is kind of a mix between sweet and tart. I found it to taste like a mix of all the berries in one, so it was really interesting to eat. It is a small to medium-sized tree with smooth gray bark. As you can see here, I'll try to get a little closer so you can see it. It's quite interesting growth. It has been losing some leaves, but so far it's still putting on lots of new foliage up there, and the color looks pretty okay. The tree itself is actually dioecious, meaning its male and female flowers bloom on individual trees. So I am trying to propagate a few more of them, trying to get a mix of both male and female. But again, this tree, I have to say, has been relatively hard to grow. It is not one of my easier ones, and so I've already lost a few of them since the summertime. So yeah, we'll see how things go with this, but it is a zone 10 and it does like to thrive in subtropical coastal regions. Now, this cute little tree here, this is called peanut butter fruit. I'll get the tag there for you. This is a really interesting tree. I don't know if it's normal for this tree to have such light leaves that potentially develop into these like slightly darker leaves, but it is native to Colombia and Venezuela and parts of South America. It tastes like a rich and creamy peanut butter with a bonus tropical fruity flavor. Now, I've not tried this one yet, so I can only take what they say to be true. It does sound interesting. No matter what it produces, I think it'll be kind of cool to have. And they do say it takes about 2 to 3 years to bear fruit from seed. I have to assume this one is planted by seed because I do not see any graft union. So I am guessing that this is probably already a year and a half, 2 years old. It doesn't look like it's at bearing age yet, so yeah, time will tell. We'll wait another year and we'll see how far we get with it. Well, let's talk what we do for lighting. Now, behind my mango here, you can see we have a very large window. This is south-facing, and then there's also a secondary south-facing window there. And this is where I have my Japodicabas, and of course my citrus trees here on the side. And then you can see we have a ledge here. This again has our star fruit, or sorry, our star cherries, our Japodicabas. This is actually a little pomegranate that I grow from seed, so not much to say about that. It was a soft-seeded pomegranate, but we'll see how it does. But as you can see here, the light that is hitting the mango and our Scarlet Japodicaba, as well as some of our Tamarillos and Adamoyas, they are just getting the south-facing sun. So we do not have any additional lighting for them. They get what they get, whether it's a sunny day or an overcast day. This is my 3rd year of growing fruit trees like this, and they have done actually quite well. When you look down here, this is where you'll see the Tamarillo and one of my seedlings. For the citrus, they also just get whatever light is bounced out from that south-facing window. So again, here we've got some of our citrus, and on the table here, some more citrus, a mango, and another kumquat there. So again, they're not getting any kind of direct light. They are getting filtered light from a south-facing window. And then here, that second south-facing window I showed you, we've got some more of our plants on there. And then on the table, again, they're just kind of getting filtered light. So this is our strawberry guavas and my citrus seedling. This is all we give them. We do not do anything additional, and they've done really well. Now, last room to talk about is our little solarium bedroom here for the fruit trees. Again, you can see we have our third south-facing window, and that is all the plants get. So again, in here, I do not have any additional lighting. Perhaps they would do better with it, but I have found that, especially for citrus, they do not need direct light. So I set them a little further back, and the fruits that I believe do need a little bit more light, I put closer to the window. So this is all we do. And so far so good. They have done well. I have found south-facing windows to be more than enough to get them through the winter. So if we're talking about watering our plants, I constantly keep all of our plants and their pots filled with water at all times. So as we go through winter time, some plants will consume more water than others, and I just keep everything topped up as necessary. And like I mentioned with the soil, if I'm not using compost in at the roots, I don't worry about having to let them dry out and figuring out when is a good time to water. I just keep all of the basins filled with water, and they all uptake water as necessary. Some are slower, some are faster than others. And that's how I manage and keep all of the plants you see here. This is why I prefer this method with the soil and the sunlight that we have here just naturally filtering in through the south-facing windows. We keep it really simple. We're trying to give our plants what they need without having to baby them or pamper them too much. Now, of course, if you have any questions about what I do here, please drop them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to get back to you about that. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you want to be a part of our future growing here. We'd love to have you. But until next time, no matter what you grow, I hope you grow what you love. Bye.